having military to take over this country may not uh, reduce the idea of insecurity that is littered within the 6 zones.
Hi, welcome to my school news TV. My name is Oche Adoi John, and this is Matters Arising. This is a show where we talk about trending issues in the society, ranging from politics and to health and other aspects of human life. Today's show will continue from where we stopped concerning the coups in Africa and the implications. Last time we talked about we gave our own perspective on the issue as students in the university, but today we have an expert who is joining us. He is a lecturer of the Department of Political Science, and he has experience and expertise on the issue of coups in Africa and military, basically. Welcome, sir, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. John Adoi.
Sir, please introduce yourself.
Okay, first of all, my name is Joachim Chukwuma, a lecturer in the Department of Political Science, Professor of Nigerian Suka. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for joining us, and thank you for coming to share your wealth of knowledge with us and the experience.
Okay.
Concerning the coups in Africa, I mean, the first coup in Africa was in January 1963. That was the coup in Togo that took out President Sylvanus Olympio then in 1963. And since then, other coups took place in Ghana, Nigeria, and basically spread to Burkina Faso and other places. Sir, and now the coup is back again in Africa. Started with the issue of Sudan. Sir, basically, what can you say about that?
Okay. Good afternoon, the executive from my school new TV, the personnel, and people that are working here. Thank you for welcoming. From 2020 to this moment, Africa have recorded about 8 to 9 coups.
Wow.
From Zimbabwe, April 2019 in Sudan, Guinea-Conakry, Mali, Niger, Gabon, and as many of them.
Wow.
Now, I can term it as what regional security issues here with respect to people that are there. Now, the what we call ECOWAS Protocol on what? Good governance, democracy, and election. It prohibits the idea of what? Unchanged government or changing government. In other words, try to outlaw to negate the idea of coup d'etat in Africa.
But it seems not to be working.
In Africa, West Africa. So it has come to say, however, there are issues that make them to oust elected government in West Africa, especially in this country that I mentioned. And one of them, especially in Burkina Faso, when Ibrahim Traore took over and out Christian Kabore, part of the reason that gave him impetus to emerge as military leader was that the government under Christian Kabore find it difficult to deal with Islamic insurgency. And moreover, there are returning of what? Bad government and issue of corruption that are related with what? Christian Kabore. So that was what made Ibrahim Kabore and other subsequent military to take effect within this region. So ECOWAS or in West Africa and ECAS, that is Economic Community of Central Africa, are known with returning of coup d'etat.
Wow.
So, and I gave you the idea of bad governance, corruption, and issue to deal decisively with Islamic insurgency that want to sit some part of Burkina Faso and Mali, especially in Gao estates or districts in northern Mali.
Yes, sir.
That was in 2012.
Wow. Sir, you've given us the issue of the insecurity, corruption, and other things. Like, I want to know, is it that the issues that made those guys to take the coup in 1963 up until 1999 and other years, is it just the same thing that's repeating itself again in this 2020/2023? Or they are just basic issues that were peculiar to those years before today?
Okay, anyway, let me start with this. In all the nations, um, biggest thing that made the military leader or leaders or military to take over their nation was that they are peculiar, depending on the nation. Let's take, for example, in Guinea Conakry in 2021, while General Dumbai, who took over and ousted Alpha Conare or Condé, Alpha Condé, was that the existing government or existing leadership of what Alpha Condé
Yes.
wanted to extend his stay in office after staying for 2 tenures. You want to change the constitution
Seems to be a trend in Africa.
exactly to extend it more. What it means that after, if he had succeeded in staying safe in power or being in power, he might make himself more visible and elongate his tenure, like what we have in Gabon.
Yes.
Bango, the family ruled Gabon Republic for
55 years.
6 years.
Wow.
He sent to Sudan when Omar el-Bashir was outside in 2019.
Yes, sir.
Stayed there for almost for something years. They sent to Cameroon now
Paul Biya.
Paul Biya. He has stayed there. He entered here in 1982 when I forgot the leader who outsided, and he's up to, hypothetically, he's more than 80 years, and he wants his first son to be the leader of what? Cameroon. The same thing happened in Chad Republic when Idris Deby was
Yes.
killed by one Islamic constituency within that area.
Yes.
He put his son, who is General Mahmoud Idris Deby,
Yes. Yes.
to be the president of Chad. So that thing is peculiar to different nations that make the nation to take over. But one basic thing that make them to come over or to take over the leadership of that country is that of what? Corruption, bad governance, and the rise of Islamic insurgency, coupled with other security threats like we have in Nigeria and a lot of them here.
Yeah, we will come to Nigeria, sir, because you talked about tenure elongation and all that, and it takes me back to the issue of Rwanda and Uganda.
Yeah.
Yoweri Museveni has been in power for like even years before I was born, and he's still there, and he's not looking like he's going to go down anytime soon.
Yes, yes.
Rwanda is still the same, and
Something.
one thing we noticed after the Gabon coup was these guys actually retired their generals.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is that like a deterrent to other persons that might want to do the same thing, or they are just taking precautionary steps to make sure it doesn't happen to them?
Now that deterrence, I talked to that in
Yes, strategic
case
studies.
before.
Yes.
Now deterrence means a checkmate in form of policy, in form of what I call it, plan,
Yes, sir.
protected by different nations of the world in order to tell their enemies,
Yes.
their imagined enemies, that this thing is here. Don't ever try to encroach on our land or also in our strategic resources that we want to have. Now, when that coup took place in Niger Republic and subsequently in Gabon between July 26th and that of
August 30th. Yes.
President of Cameroon, Paul Biya, changed the military. The same thing towards Rwanda, Uganda, and many of them. To me, that thing was also to make them to stay in power.
Wow.
And never to be disputed. It's not about, it's also a different, but why they did that was to make sure that such similar thing that happened in Gabon or that place in Niger should not be occurring within their states and rest of them. So it's also a deterrence to make it now
Make their positions very clear.
clear and the other things.
Yes, sir. So another thing again is this issue of Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine war,
Okay.
is another thing again because
Yeah.
yes, and apart from the fact that it is giving rise to drought and famine in Africa, because some of these things we get, the food we get in Africa, most of them come from Ukraine, and
Russia.
I mean talking about the Black Sea grain deal and all that. So I'm looking at that now. There's this group, the private military company, the Wagner Group,
Yeah.
that was headed by Yevgeny Prigozhin,
Was
was killed recently.
to plane crash.
Yes, and we are seeing the rise of Wagner groups in Africa and in CAR, that's the Central African Republic.
Mozambique.
We have issues of that in Mozambique
Mali.
and Mali, and basically they are just in those places where
Yeah.
strategic mineral resources are.
Yeah.
And some people are of the opinion that most of these coups taking place now, mostly the ones of Niger and Burkina Faso, then Mali, are as a result of the Wagner group's influence in those countries. I don't know how true is that.
Okay, now what we're saying, because I've been able to read about documents published by RAND publication and also conversation like on articles.
Yes, sir.
Every day they send it to me through my email, and I read that, and that has to do with security issues. Now, most of us that have attended wedding, there are what we call bride and what? Groom. The wife is what? What
The
is
bride.
The bride. As far as Africa is concerned, or African countries concerned, they are bride to major dominant nations around the world.
That's the superpowers.
Yes, superpowers. To Russia, United States, UK, France, and a lot of them. Like what happened in Niger? Uranium, which is the mineral excavated or exploited within Niger, I've forgotten the communities or the place or region, are targeted by French government under Emmanuel Macron
Yes.
to beat off in terms of establishment of uranium and other weapons that are peculiar to them. Because as superpower, you have to guide yourself.
Definitely.
How do you do that? These are raw material meant to establish all these what I call it, weapons that they have.
Yes.
So Africa, they are like bride.
Wow.
All the top countries in Africa are littered with resources. Nigeria, apart from crude oil that are well known because of interest, there are other places
Well, we are not putting it to use ourselves.
because of leadership and all of them. So, that's why I taught Throne Level today, politics of development and other development. I told them that the idea of development and non-development, there's no common definition, but there are many of them based on their own interest. So, related to what you have asked me now, as far as Africa is concerned, they are the bride to these superpowers. So there are little new or peculiar interest in terms of strategic resources that they want to get. And that is why they are good in what? Try to know who govern this place so that their policies or what they want to get is what well achieved. Now, how will I put it? Based on your question, this thing is meant to favor Russia, especially places that are occupied. The same thing to United States. The same thing to Britain. The same thing to what? To France. But as it stands now, the idea or the influence of France is beginning to wane down because of the emergence of Russia.
Yes.
Led by Vladimir Putin and much more.
Yes.
The Wagner Group.
Yes, sir. Because if you look at it, most of the coups that have taken place since, in this century, basically this 21st century, and this between 2020 and now, mostly taking place in French colonized places. And most of these guys, when they enter, they immediately expel French diplomats and start having issues with France. The only issue that the only country that have not had such issues yet is still Gabon, which we don't know what's going on and why they are still holding back. And so we are going to come to Nigeria because Nigeria is our mainstay now, because Nigeria is our country, and for now we still stand as the giant of Africa.
Yes.
In quotes. In quotes. And yes, thank you guys for watching. And this is still My School News TV, and we are still talking about the coups in Africa and the implication for Nigeria due to proximity in terms of geography and psychology. So coming to Nigeria now, I read that there have been 8 attempted coups in Nigeria, basically. 6 have been successful and 2 have not been. And this spanned from the eras of the 1966 till 1998 when Abdusalami handed over power hand over power to General Obasanjo, who became the president and the democratic elected head of state. So, sir, I'm looking at the proximity of Niger to Nigeria and the Sahel basically to Nigeria, which is a sub-Saharan Africa and West Africa and the most powerful nation in terms in West Africa. I think there are fears because the security issues in Nigeria, it's appalling. It's getting too much, and sometimes we wonder, when is the military going to take over? Some people say military should not come. Some people are saying, okay, please come. And we don't know because in all those countries, the military seems to be getting the popularity whenever they take power. I mean, in Gabon, the people spilled into the street and they were celebrating. So the fear now is, should Nigerians be afraid of the military coming to take over? Or is this something that will not happen due to foreign interest and probably the military in Nigeria will not want to do that?
Okay. Let me start with, there are numerous cases of military intervention, and of them, you see people jubilating, gyrating, saying thank you, we are through with from poverty and all of them. But the question is, the emergence of the military who have taken over, would their policies and interest be for the interest of the people?
That's a very tough one.
That is the question I've been asking myself. Okay, people, giving applause for taking over, having suffered poverty, unemployment as of them. What is the guarantee, or where is the guarantee that the emerging military or emergence of military will sustain the idea of good governance?
I think the people did not ask themselves those questions before they spilled into the street.
So what we'll do is General Dumbaye, who took over from Alpha Condé in Guinea. Now, for you to know, though Western perspective by occur, every year there is what we call Human Development Index that has been ruled out or dished out to know the idea how poverty, unemployment, and a lot of issues that are being tackled by the government, what is the rate and all of them. Majority of African countries are embedded in that list. And then even Nigeria is also part of it. Cameroon, Guinea, and rest of them. So the question is, that is the question I have not taken time to observe. There are some individuals that work in security issues places that I ask questions. Either in Germany or other places through online. So I have asked them that question, but they have not taken time to answer me about that.
So the issue of Nigeria now. So
the issue of Nigeria is, I've asked some people. They believe what they told me was that there won't be military coup in Nigeria.
Thank God.
Because of what? Every 22nd of every month they are paid. They are paid more compared to academics. Have you ever asked yourself why the this one patent to me, but in respect to what we have, they don't pay. Government don't have, well, I call it, good plan for academic lecturers here in this country. But in terms of military, judiciary, and other places, they take good care. I don't think military may emerge to take over the leadership of this country as it stands now.
Well, sir, the issue, the insecurity in the northeast and that is spreading to the southeast.
Okay.
A lot of the military, they are losing their men on a daily to these insurgents, and it doesn't look like. Yeah. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it comes down, then it goes up again, and before you know it, one military plane is crashing, another one they mistakenly bombed somewhere. I mean, are the military men not getting tired of that? That the civilians are not doing as much as they should for them as the military, for them to do their job.
So what is the question?
My question is, the military, are they not seeing the issue like these issues, these security issues? Are they not bothering the military men that we will do better if we get into power? We will do better in terms of when we get into power, when we take over from these persons, these civilians that are not seeing, they are not doing it rightly. When we get into power, we will do better.
Okay, thank you for that question. But question you ask yourself, as far as this was concerned, the idea of corruption is littered virtually everywhere. I've read in some online military, or let me say Nigerian security forces, sell their weapons to people in order to get money.
Jesus.
Now, have you heard about the idea of Dasuki Gates?
Yes,
Who was national security advisor for the president? Is it Jonathan, right?
Yes, President.
That the money given to him, about $2 billion, to pay military men who were posted in the desert in order to protect the essence of bandits, Boko Haram, out of them. He connected the money in order to launch into an election campaign out of them. So, when a military man who have 4 or 3 children with a wife, and you don't pay his salary and other things, what is the implication? So, corruption is also there, and from what I've seen so far, you might have read that government budgeted about 2 billion, for instance, to education, to environment, or to mining sector. Mention them, but we have not heard about amount of fund as allocation budgeted to military.
Wow.
The idea of what Boko Haram bandit, in fact, virtually all the 6 military zones in the country are littered with what? Insecurity.
But some
okay, now with the amount of funds budgeted to them from inception, take it now, they have been fighting Boko Haram or something. Why is it that issue of Boko Haram is still existent and persistent?
It's a question of Nigerians
in terms of recruitment and all that thing. But this money have been given to them to pull it down through deployment of Nigerian military and others of them. Why is it persistent, consistent in what? In the operations. So I'm not in that area. If actually in that area, let there be or like a committee set up to know how much the fund, how much was it used, the how I put it, the plan, the training and retraining of Nigerian military of them. So having military to take over this country may not reduce the idea of insecurity that is retard within the 6 political zones.
Wow.
But however, if adequate training, funding, and other things in checkmating how this fund is being utilized, it will be appropriate. But that's what. But the idea of insecurity is still increasing every day.
Hopefully we'll get there one day where we don't have to talk about the insecurity issue as alarming as it is.
That's a concern.
Yeah. And the issue of ECOWAS now.
Okay.
The ECOWAS wanted to go to Niger when the coup happened. They wanted to, I don't know if I should call it evade Niger, or I should call it, they wanted to go have something to do with Niger, but they seem to be having a second thought, and they didn't go anymore. And Donald Trump once said he will spill the fire and fury, and I think that's what ECOWAS is just doing. Fire and fury and no action to back it up.
Okay.
Why are they taking another stand? Why are they stepping back? Because, I mean, they always say, they always tell us that one country affected is affecting the entire region, which is the Economic Community of West African States. So why are they not going to Niger? Why are they taking another step?
I taught that to Fanaye's student yesterday and also to level today about issue of insecurity, coup d'etat in West Africa, in respect to Nigeria being the leader, the president being the leader of ECOWAS, and why is it up till now? They're what we call ECOWAS standby force.
Yes.
Pulling together of what? Troops of different countries. Now we have about 16 countries in West Africa. Now, they're what we call ECOWAS Protocol on good governance, democracy, and election. What it means is this: it forbids government that is not owned by people through election. In other words, it forbids the idea of military takeover of any given country within the region of West Africa. However, Many believe, because I listen to people, I observe them. This is where you get to know this is. Many believe that the president, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was inaugurated, become the leader of Nigeria, and not less than a month, he was elected or appointed as leader of ECOWAS and all of them. Why he could not go there, from what I've interviewed people, said because of the way and manner he entered into office.
Wow.
Remember that time the idea of tribunal court of appeal, whatever, that just ended, and they nullify the evidences and the report made by Labour Party and PDP, all of them. Maybe from what people said, these are the things that made him to mellow it down so that he will not intervene or invade Ukraine. Another thing is he may be afraid, in quotes, of the idea of Russia intervening.
Definitely.
Because of what? The interest of Russia in Africa. Because the emergence of Russia as, what I call it, a big power, is also encroaching many countries in Africa. Now, remember, before they sat the head of state of ECOWAS with President Tinubu, they said, they told General Abdurrahmani Omar Chiani, who took over from Alhaji Mohammed Bazoum.
Yes.
Reinstate Bazoum, or you see our invasion, because Africa is a democratic sub-region Africa. So you don't take over the seat of leadership through military and lots of them. So, but there is a statement made by Ibrahim Traore and Goita of Mali, who said it's not enough to make that statement. If you invade Niger, our responsibility must be seen. Therefore, there is something backing these two generals to make that statement. And the leader or the leaders of different countries within Africa know the consequences of invasion and counter-invasion of these countries that are there. Let me tell you, that what we call United Nations Development Program 1994 report about the idea of security or human security. There are about 7 chapters or 7 levels of it. Then we political security, economic security, environmental security, political security, social security, about 2 of them.
Wow.
If there are such similar invasion, people within that region, because Nigeria and Giselle share border from Madi to Sokoto, South Africa, Kaduna, and some places, because I serve in Goza, where my youth is.
Wow.
I know those places. From Goza to Meduguri, about 3 hours. From Meduguri, Madagali, Michika, Adamawa, and all those places. If if there is any projection made from military leaders or the personnel from Burkina Faso, it may affect civilian population that share that border. So causing a lot of insecurity and making those people not comfortable with what is happening, because already there is high cases of poverty, unemployment, and many other and much more ungoverned spaces, because hardly you see government places or government place or what I call it footprint within this region that you see population, a lot of them. So the idea of human security matters.
Interesting. This is really a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Now, given ECOWAS and the African Union, which is the regional body in charge of, which is the continental body, African Union.
Sub-region.
Yes, and ECOWAS being the sub-region, which is the West African region. What do you think, together with the United Nations, what do you think? Because this coup is beginning to look like a wave, like the Arab Spring. It is spreading.
2011.
Yes, it is spreading because it is Gabon. Only God knows where next. Because a lot of these countries are suffering.
Yeah.
Their persons are suffering. Like you said, the military, they are not well paid like the Nigerian one. So, and a lot of persons are calling for the military takeover. To avert this military takeover, what should these bodies, these international bodies, what should they do to support this country?
Let the operations, whatever they want to bring out, be for the interest of the people. Now, in my own opinion, if I should advise President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the idea of removing fuel subsidies, let me tell you, there are businesses, commercial activities where people sustain their livelihood. Most of them are being closed because of high cases of what fuel now. For
Yes.
example, here University of Nigeria and Suka, before to enter shuttle to this place, how much is it?
It used to be 100 naira.
No, 70 naira before.
Yeah, before when I came to this, it was 50.
But it's 150, and very soon now they might take it to 200 naira. The same thing to people around Nigerians, around within places of you call Nigeria that are suffer because of what increment of fuel, and the result of that, that has a lot of things to do with their life and livelihood. So, in my own opinion, the United Nations, the AU, or other organized group that in the world should advise president or leadership of different nations to bring out policies that will go very well in terms of the businesses, the life, the career, the welfare of the people. For example, let me give you an example. People believe that once removal of subsidy is being carried out, that gives the government a lot of money. I don't know the quantity or the amount that they're getting. I know every day as a popular too much how put it. We country that Nigeria is one of the best in terms of population in this Africa.
Yeah, over 200 million.
More than that. But what I'm saying is that alone, in respect to people who buy fuel out of them, government have a lot of fund. If I'm under the shoe of President Bola Tinubu, workers, people who do public service, increase their pay to make it to or to match with increasing high demand of now. If you go to the market to buy things now, the price is not as it were before. Things are increasing. And do you know the implication of that to people? So it's not about removal of forces in the form that you have gotten. Digress or put it to how I put it to the salaries of people, workers that are working, so that the idea, the burden, the implication of that removal of forces will not be felt by many Nigerians. The same thing to African countries, while advising their leaders so that their policies will be for the interest of the masses. Because now let me tell you, there are people who are agitating for military takeover.
Yes.
There are people who are also that are not agitating for what military takeover. So it's a diverse opinion. So in the interest of the masses, let the policies of existing government be for the welfare of the people.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. My last question to you is, when will Africa stop being the bride? Is there a possibility for that, for Africa to stop being the bride? Because since the Western nations are the groom and we are the bride, we are the ones they enjoy what we have. Where will Africa stop being the bride?
Now, being that involve a lot of what courage and power. But the question is, what about 54 or 55 countries in Africa? When they go to AU, you see different diverse opinion in respect to leaders. Now, I can remember in 2020, 2010 or 2009, former president of Libya made one statement that we're going to build here, we're going to have what we call United States of Africa.
He was murdered.
He was murdered through NATO and most of them there.
Yes.
The idea of invasion of NATO was not primarily because of now the safety level of Libyans was more better than we that are recent Nigerian.
And Libya is nothing to write home about.
And now, 2 days ago, there was
the flood, the storm
that break many people, and there are massive deaths.
Over 22,000.
52,000 as a result of that flooding cases, a lot of them. So what I'm saying is that, as it stands now, many African leaders who came out and said, let there be a United States of Africa. Therefore, let there be currency within them. Like now, as far as the world concerned, America is what? They are the giant of the world. That's why you see, if you want to do anything now, it's through dollar. Yes. And that informed the idea of BRICS.
Yes,
Brazil,
BRICS.
Russia,
India, China,
all of them. They want to devalue the importance, influence of dollar around the world.
Wow. How possible is that?
And they said that that by June, which had passed, they were going to bring a currency that will counter the idea and the influence of what? Dollar. Now, two nations, about two countries or two leaders of Africa who came out and said want to have United States of Africa to make them unified in terms of economic, political, social, so that when they do that, you see economic influence and other things will be growing. Those leaders were killed by Essenas, majorly by superpowers. Let me not mention their names. You know them by the time, because of some reasons, let me not mention their names.
Definitely.
Now, we are about Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. What about late Thomas Sankara?
Yes, Thomas Sankara.
And many of them who made that statement, where are they now? But the question is, if for me it's good for Africans to unite and have influence within themselves, not the external influence. But the question is, among the African leaders who have the courage that Muammar Gaddafi and Thomas Sankara had, do they have it now?
Most of them are building wealth.
So that's why I ask you, military men that took over, are they there for the people, or is it for their personal interest? Now, let me tell you one thing. Gabon, or Umar Gambo, the father, the son, that was dethroned or ascended 30th of August. The person who took over that power,
His cousin.
is his cousin. And he has some affiliation in the United States and other Western countries. How will he be committed in rendering help to masses, especially the Gabonese? So what I'm saying is that it's good to have African leaders coming together to unite themselves, to make things glamorous in terms of economic, in trade and other things. But the question is that who among the nation, the leaders in Africa that have that courage of Muammar Gaddafi and Thomas Sankara? I don't think it exists now.
Well, hopefully we'll get one day. By the time these old ones are.
Maybe by the time we become the president or any other person here, stuff here.
Thank you very much, sir, for honoring an invitation for being here with us today. Your in-depth analysis will really help us and we Nigerians to put away our fears of any military coup or in this country. And hopefully our leaders will watch this and they'll be able to learn from your expertise and from your wealth of knowledge. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
And this is still My School News TV, and the show for today has been Matters Arising. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.